for staying with us on The Perspective with Amanda Witdarmono from We the Teachers. Amanda, what are the current projects that We the Teachers are working on?
So we've been going on for almost one academic year, and we've been working with teachers, but then we see that when you want to do significant things in the school, there needs to be really strong leadership in the school. So right now we are working with school leaders, trying to make sure that the ideas that are there, the changes that they want to have, is sustainable, not just on the classroom level, but also on the daily dynamic or the culture of the school. So school leadership is one thing that we are fervently working on right now. Another thing is building a teaching center where it's really a hub of resources, a hub of ideas, and then a hub of freshness for these teachers to come in.
Where is this teaching center? Where you set up, or do you go to schools and set up these teaching centers?
It's mostly outside Jakarta, and the issue here is distance, because we are so far away with each other, and then with the limited technology and infrastructure and Wi-Fi connection that is available in other areas in Indonesia, we thought that the most feasible thing to do is to build this center. So it could be sort of like a teacher's lounge, but open for any teachers in the area. We're still building on that, so we'll see how it goes.
And so you mentioned, I'm curious to know, you mentioned earlier on the sideline that you work directly with schools. Now, do you approach the schools individually? You select the schools randomly? I mean, right now you're working in Jakarta and Greater Jakarta areas. So how does that working out?
So far, I've been working with private schools, actually. Why? Because private schools have more freedom to not just do whatever they want to do with the schools. I guess the bureaucracy is not as complex as it is in public schools, because the decision makers are there. If it makes sense, then everybody will be up for it. But then, of course, private school is more like a product, right? It's more like a market where there are the customers. And when we talk about public schools, we talk about the kids, we talk about the nation or the economy or the community within the school area. But here we have parents as well that feels like they have a say because they are paying for the education. And I mean, it makes sense because they care so much about the children and they want the best for their students. That's why they are they want to be involved in the process. But that's another side of private school that I guess gives freedom to what we can do and what the ideas or revolutionary things that we can conduct in the school complex.
Now, in the effort of trying to build this supportive environment for teachers, let's just say take one area, BSD perhaps, do you also speak to the local administration and how the importance of this supporting environment for these teachers is?
I do, and not just local administration, but also many other things. For instance, the administrative staffs, right? Sometimes we see them as just being another person probably in the school, but really they provide strong support for what's happening, for the learning and teaching activities that are happening. Also, a big part is the community, because we are in Asia, and I guess peer pressure is still very big over here. We still care so much about what our relatives think, what our neighbors think, and
the
so
image is still
important over here. Yeah. So leveraging on that to drive positive impacts, that is also a way that we're working on. So, for instance, when we have a crazy idea on what good thing to happen in the school, then we talk really to the key opinion leaders, the really strong mothers that are very talkative, that are very influential. So then everybody will believe in that.
Some are more domineering than the rest of the rest of the group.
And also another thing is, of course, the school leaders, the principals, the subject heads, because when they're in and when they are not afraid to be different, when they really believe in what we're going to do at the schools, then it's very easy to disperse or to distribute the impacts to everybody on the grassroots level, the teachers and the students.
Of course. Now, I understand you've also in communications with the public sector, the government in the policymakers, of course, in this case. How is their reaction into such an idea that they've never thought of, or how's how do they welcome it or reaction to?
I really appreciate this administration's extra effort, I guess, in appreciating teachers and really just enforcing the high quality of teachers. So that is something that we are aligned in to start off with. And I guess they see a different side from we the teachers, because we're mostly young people. There are veteran teachers as well, but then mostly it's the energetic and the naive teachers that might not have that years of experience yet, but we are craving for something that is different in classrooms. So that breathes in another dynamic to the atmosphere. Yeah, but then again, I mean, we learn from each other. We don't have that experience, but nothing beats 20 years of experience teaching in classrooms, and we learn from the tricks and the patience, especially, and the honed skills that these teachers have. So, yeah.
Do you feel a resistance from teachers who've been in the field older than 20, most experienced, or senior teachers you mentioned earlier? Are you getting enough support? Are you getting the right support from them? Are you getting some kind of resistance from them, because they might be thinking they have done things in their traditional ways? They've been doing it for 20 years, and here you are a very young, minded bunch of young educators that comes with different ideas. And how are they receiving that?
Of course, sometimes there are questions, or there are challenges to the arguments that we are proposing, but I see that more as an effect of their wariness of what they see every day.
Which means they care and they want to know.
Which means they care, which provides a good start for the discussion to keep going. But then again, I read once that what impacts how a teacher teaches is not the education that they receive as a teacher, not the trainings that they get, and not the years of experience as well, but more so the 12 years that they were a student back then. And imagine how classrooms look like in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Or during my time even, and what's happening right now, like just the technology, how it's so easy to communicate with each other. Parents easily get access to teachers, whereas back then it's gonna go through security, headmasters. So that is something different that all of us are struggling with, and I'm not surprised that in 3-5 years is going to change again. So
all right. Okay, we'll talk more about With the Teachers with Armanda Witdarmono right here on The Perspective after the short break.